All right, let's get started. So I know that Tim set up a poll that went out before the Adobe Spark, before this presentation began. Tim, if you could remind me of what the questions were. I know there were two.
I will deploy the first poll right now.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
So everybody has an opportunity. We'll just take the next 2 minutes to get a sense of where you and the attendees are. Each of you should see this. By the way, you can select more than one here. Good, thanks. I can see people chiming in. 92% on Facebook, 77% Twitter, 46% Instagram, and 62% on webmails. Okay. I'm going to give this just about 10 more seconds. We'll close this and send out the second poll question very quickly. We'll show the results of these a little bit later. Good.
All right.
There's what that first one looked like.
Now, I can't see that, Tim, so I don't...
I think that's just because you're the presenter at this point.
Okay. That's all right.
And secondly, here is the second question. Good. Getting there. And we'll close this poll in just 10 seconds here, so chime in. Just gives a sense of what people's level of familiarity is. Okay. Thank you. And that's what that one looks like. So the vast majority of you, if 95% or 94%, it means the vast majority, have either never heard of it or have heard of it but never used it. So Julia, you have fertile soil here this afternoon by which to share your wisdom. So the polls are concluded. Thanks, everybody. And Julia, go ahead.
All right. So since none of you have used it, or almost none of you, let's just start from the ground up. Adobe Spark is a suite of apps. They're free. With you just create an account, email, password, and it's through an online browser. There are 3 apps. One is Spark Page, one is Spark Video, and the one we're talking about today is Spark Post. What these apps do is it's kind of Adobe's way of making sort of a simpler suite of products, more, you know, because they're known for Photoshop and things like that. This is something you don't need to have sort of like take a class to understand kind of thing. These are introductory level design applications, utilities, things like that. Spark Post, the one we're going to be looking at today, helps you make graphics to share on social media platforms. So you could use them for marketing, you could use them to promote events, things like that. So they make customizable graphics, they optimize image sizes for the different social media platforms, so they know which sizes of images look the best on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and you can customize them for that. And on top of that, they have a huge database of open source photos that you can use, and as well as a number of professionally designed fonts if you're into typography. So without much further ado, let's get started. I can get out of this. There we go. So if you wanted to look at a few more examples, I know that the prayer was one, but this is our Instagram profile, and these are some examples of our quotes of the day. These are all made using Adobe Spark.
Spark Post.
Spark Post. I just say Adobe Spark. I'm sorry about that. I'll slip up a few more times probably. So here's my homepage for Adobe Spark. This is what, if you have an account, you'll see once you log in. You can see there's magic layouts out here. We'll talk about that some more. To get started on a Spark post, you're going to click on the yellow plus sign up at the corner. Once you click that, it gives you the option: Spark post, Spark page, or a Spark video. As you probably have gathered by now, we're going to start with a post. Here on this screen, you get two options. You have the option to start from scratch, and then if you scroll down, you have all of these magic layouts that I was talking about before, these templates. So what happens here, you click on one, and it's very much plug and play. So we'll start with this one, for example. You click on the text, you click edit, put the text that you want to be in there. I'm going to take that out. And look, you've already got this beautiful post. But if you wanted to customize it a little bit further, you've got options. So let's do this. We're going to make, this is actually, if you want to look behind the curtain, this is going to be our Friday quote of the day in 2 weeks. All right. So let's start with the Design tab up at the top here. In the Design tab, you have a few more of these layouts if you wanted to switch it around. You just click on one, and you can, this little switch icon here allows you to move the text and the colors and stuff. As you move from left to right, it gets a little bit more granular. So now we're into layouts, which is different from these overall templates up in Design, because it's more about sort of the shape of things. And you can have like a nice banner over here and a blank slate over here. And these two get more complicated as you move along. You can also here insert a margin or a little bit more spacing, if that's something that you think would look nice. From here we have palettes. So these palettes, again, pretty simple. You find the one that looks good with the image you've decided on. They've got all of these pre-made. I like this one a lot. And then again, this icon helps you to switch things out. I think that looks nice. As we move, we have the Background tab. So if you scroll here, we have filters, kind of like on Instagram if you're familiar with that. And that will change what the photo in the background looks like.
Okay, just a little slower, please, Miss Andretta.
Sorry, I just got your tips. Okay, sorry, where was I? So filters for the image in the background. You can also replace the image in the background. And this is what, at the beginning, I mentioned that there's a database of Creative Commons licensed photos that you can choose from. You're going to find that here under Find Photos. And you just Google, let's say, pattern. And what that does, it's going to bring up all of these. And these are Creative Commons licensed, so you can use them like they're fair use. You're not going to get in trouble for just pulling them off of Google or anything like that. All these different templates. That doesn't look very good, does it? So let's go with something simple like that. You can also adjust the photo. So all this does, it's again, not very robust. All this does, you can zoom a little bit if your photo is too far out, or you can rotate it if you want it to be a little more wonky. I haven't used that much. I don't really know why that's there, but oh no, and now I can't get it perfect. Also, in the background, you'll notice there's delete, and that's if you just want a solid color in the back. Some of mine have just solid colors. And if you once you delete this, or if you have a layout where you have two columns, you can choose colors from your pre-chosen palette over here for that. All right. So we've moved from layout to palette to background to text. So in the text you have shape, color, font, spacing, align, and opacity. And there's also this wheel, which I'm a little afraid of. I don't use it a lot, but what the wheel does is it basically just randomizes some suggestions based on your sort of color palette and style and things like that. I don't really like to randomize very much, but sometimes it helps get the creative juices flowing. So in shape, this has a number of, this is a new popular feature actually with the see-through text, and you can change kind of the border, I guess you would call it, of your text here. We had this, I want to say. Oh, wrong thing. That's another key thing that I had to learn is you have to make sure you've selected what you want to change, because otherwise nothing will change. So for example, if I've got the background selected and I want to change the shape of the text, oh, it selected it for me. Didn't used to do that. We're all learning today. All right. So from text shape, we can move to color. Again, this palette comes back into play that you chose back in palette. It has a number of sort of two-tone font choices. Or not font, this is font. And like I mentioned at the beginning, they have all of these professionally designed fonts that you can sort of mix and match. Let's see. I like the one we've got now, but I'm also a really big fan of this one.
Okay, so you just went back from font to where there? To color or shape? I'm sorry? Okay.
Yeah, so sorry if I'm moving too fast. I'm getting a little.
You've done this before. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's make this a little bigger. All right, so we've talked about shape, color, and font. We've got spacing, which is exactly what it says on the tin, but also, well, maybe not exactly. So it deals with the spacing of the lines themselves, but it also will adjust sort of the padding, I guess, on the on whatever shape you've chosen. So it'll do this for any shape. So if we choose a circle, the circle will get bigger and smaller as we mess with the spacing. And I like to have it a little smaller. There's also the Align tab. Again, more or less exactly what it says on the tin. But it also has this sort of interesting kind of stacked alignment. It doesn't look so good with this font, so let's choose another font. And this basically makes it looks a lot better for Instagram posts primarily, because in Instagram posts you want a square. This will align the text so that it's a perfect square, or maybe not a perfect square, a rectangular sort of alignment.
Just for a second, we have two questions that have come in that I think that are very related to this at the moment. Shona Sumrek was asking, are you able to upload your own photos?
Oh, I completely skipped over that. Yes, absolutely. So when you're in the background tab and you're on photo, so up here you have the option to replace, adjust, which we talked about a little, or delete. Under the Replace tab, what I showed you was Find Photos, which was how you access the database of Creative Commons licensed photos. Up at the top here, there's also Upload Photo. So this will take you to, you know, your folders and your files, and you can pull your own photos in. You can also pull photos in from your Dropbox. I don't have my Dropbox connected, so I unfortunately can't show you that. But you can pull in photos from your Dropbox or your Google Photos if you keep more of your photos sort of in the cloud and you don't have as many on your device. But yes, in answer to your question, you can replace your photos with ones that you already have. You don't have to use their Creative Commons ones. There are also options to link if you have a more robust sort of Adobe sort of presence. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but if you have more things saved to things like Creative Cloud and Lightroom, you can also access photos from there. So you've got a lot of options. I'm a huge fan of the Creative Commons licensed photos because I know I'm not going to get in trouble for using them, because I'm famous for just pulling images off Google.
Good, and you actually answered the other question from Shelby Walchuk as you shared that she was asking, she needed a reminder on how you search for photos, but you took care of that. So,
oh, excellent.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we were talking about align and this square alignment. So the last thing in the text would be opacity. And this gives you a slider down here and allows you to sort of make whatever shape you've chosen a little bit more see-through or a little bit not. And I think right down the middle there looks kind of pleasant. Actually, let's do something with this guy down here. Now, don't let me get lost in the weeds. I'm just gonna adjust that, actually. And you can go back and edit your text at any time, too. You're not married to whatever you've put in there. Center that. All right. So, oh, and then, of course, the final step. How do you get things from Spark Post to ultimately Instagram or Facebook or wherever you want it to go? So there's a button up at the top here that says Share. When you click that, you have a number of options. I always immediately go to download because from there I can, you know, put things into Hootsuite, which is what I use to manage all of our social media, and I can sort of make sure that it's being taken care of the way I'd like to take care of it. You can also save it to Adobe Spark, and people can you can sort of like exchange ideas with people. You can post your images on Adobe Spark, and some of those layouts that you saw are some of the things that people have done. There's an aquarium that does a lot of them, actually. And so your project can get noticed by other people. You can notice other people's projects, and kind of there's an exchange of ideas that goes on there. That's this down here, get noticed. Your project may be featured on the Adobe Spark website, which is why you want to choose a tag so that it shows up on the right place in the Adobe Spark website. You can also create a link if you want this image to primarily be accessed online. Like I said, I don't do that a lot. I would rather have my own copy and sort of do with it what I'd like from there. So that's the share functionality. I don't know if I talked about add at all. You can add another photo or add more text at any time. So if we were working with kind of like more of a collage, a lot of people do these really neat collages with the layouts. So you can add 2 or 3 more photos, or you can add more text. That's kind of what I like to do to get the quote itself and the credit to look a little bit different, kind of play up the typography aspect.
So Julia, if you get to this point, and this square orientation would be great for Instagram, but if at this point you think, oh, but I'd actually like to put this on Facebook or have another perspective to it,
yes.
What does this Spark post offer?
Thank you for asking, because I couldn't remember if I had covered that already. So we're going to go back to the Layout tab, so the second tab in. The Layout tab, like I said, has these layouts for collages and for sort of different blocking. But it also has this tab here that says Resize, which is my favorite tab of all time. Because what Resize will do is optimize your post to whichever platform you're going to be sharing it on. So if this is ultimately going to go on Facebook and not on Instagram, you can click this and it'll automatically resize it to the post size that looks the best on a Facebook page. And they've got, you know, Pinterest, YouTube, and even like Facebook ad, which is, I guess, different from a regular Facebook post. And profile covers if you want to change your office's like banner at the top of your Facebook page. It'll optimize it for any size. You might have to tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, it really will snap things into place pretty efficiently. I just wanted to keep getting skinnier to see if it would keep doing that, and it did, so that's nice. Or you can just use the original image size. Ours was a square. So is there anything else that I missed?
Shelby wants to know if by chance, so let's say you want this graphic to go to multiple platforms. Do you save it 3 times then?
That is what I have done. Yes, because I think once you change this, it will stay changed on your overall Spark post profile. So you do have to make multiple copies, but even that is pretty easy. So I'll just go through what I do. I make an Instagram one first, so this would be my Instagram one. I would save it, and then I would do a Twitter one, and I might, like I said, adjust it a little bit so that it looks a little bit nicer on this particular size. Oh, this is gonna not do what I want. All right. So I might adjust a little bit, and then I'll just go back to the download and save another copy. So you do have to save, you know, 2 or 3 copies, but you can do it all from just the one screen. So I think that's rather nice.
Another related question. Leslie Hadley asked, when you resize for Facebook, from your familiarity, does it take into consideration the Facebook guidelines you need to do so it can be boosted? I'm not sure. We don't boost a whole lot of our posts, but I would assume that if you clicked this Facebook ad, that would take those guidelines into consideration. Only, like, I assume that only because a Facebook ad would be something that a company would probably boost more so than another type of post. And then another thing that I wanted to mention, actually, that I just thought of, this is only tangentially related, but if you've noticed these yellow lines that have been appearing as I've been moving things around, it automatically snaps things to center for you. So you don't have to worry about, you know, like I'm the type of person who would worry about, oh, this looks centered to me, but I'm not sure if it's actually centered, kind of, especially when it comes to graphic design. So that's a really a good feature. And another feature, it doesn't just snap to the center of the post, but if I wanted to center this bottom text with this text over here, it will center it and align it with that as well. Good. This is, we're coming up to about a half an hour here, which is what we typically schedule for our web water coolers. Go ahead, please share questions via the question pane. I think Loida, can I turn, I'm going to turn your microphone on, Loida. You raised your hand here. So Loida, your microphone is on if you want to talk.
Good afternoon.
Hi there.
From the Dominican Republic.
Yes, I'm Dominican Republic. I'm really pleased to be connected with you and to know the new information about the new apps to work on it. And I'm really interested to know if there is an available manual for it, because, for example, we have a designer in the communication department, but sometimes he's really busy and we need somebody else to help him to work with the designs, especially for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But if we can use this kind of systems, we can help him and be more effective. So there is a manual that we can find and teach somebody else to work on it, especially.
So Spark has a lot of, if you look up at the top left-hand corner where my mouse is with these 3 lines, you click on this. So Spark has a blog and an inspiration gallery.
Fantastic.
These are really helpful resources to sort of get inspiration on how to use the Spark features. Also, down here it has something called actually Spark Features. And this is more of a sort of description of what you can do. So I used this actually when I was creating the slide at the beginning, describing what Adobe Spark is and does. You've got the, typography, the imagery, and things like that.
It probably doesn't have, Rita, a full manual the way an out-of-the-box software program like Photoshop does. But as Julia mentioned, between the resources in here and on YouTube and things like that, you get to learn how people are using it. That's probably the best set of suggestions.
Yep. And like I said, the interface itself is very intuitive, sort of just to play around in. Most of what I learned about Spark, I learned just from sort of going in and like playing, basically, like, okay, what does this button do? What can I do with this? And so it doesn't take long to learn at all. It's a pretty once you sort of get the hang of it, it's a pretty intuitive interface.
And I have another question, Julia. Is there a special requirement for install this on our computer, or is it just to download it and start working on it?
I don't think so. I've used this on my desktop at work. I've used it on my laptop at home. I don't think that there is a sort of screen size requirement. I do know, like, so Spark Page, which we didn't look at, but Spark Page makes web pages, and I know that those will optimize to any screen size. So I would imagine that, Adobe Spark Post and all of the other applications will probably optimize to any screen size.
Thank you very much.
Also, it's important to mention that there are apps. I can't speak for the Android platform, but there is a Spark Post, Spark Page, and Spark Video. There are 3 separate apps, and it's pretty remarkable how you can start it on the computer in a web browser and can continue it in the app. As a matter of fact, in some cases, you don't even need to be connected to the internet to get something started and underway. So I've built a number of Spark projects while in the air, and then it syncs up very nicely once you land and get yourself back connected. So I think Julia has primarily used the web interface. So, but the app, and they're free apps, as you can imagine. We have a question here from, let's see, Olaf, I turned your microphone on if you'd like to share it.
Well, my question is if you can superimpose anything like a logo or other shapes that you have prefabricated, because that's what you often use for our purposes, for example, that we have our school's logo imprinted.
So I'm not sure, are you asking if you can make a template with your logo on it, or if you can...
No, if I can use our logo and put it onto a post.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can upload any image that you have saved on your computer.
But can I superimpose it, like with an alpha channel, or is it just a... as a full photo?
I don't think that you can... I don't think that you can superimpose an image over...
That add option?
Uh-huh.
I can add a photo?
Right, but this is, so I'll I'll show you what happens when you do that. So you choose one of these, and it's gonna pop it into a layout. Is what it's gonna do. And you can. I didn't do a lot with the layouts, but you can sort of move it, and so you can switch them if you'd like. But you can't. I don't think overlay one over the other. And I also am not sure if you can. I'll look really quick, but I don't think that you can do anything to the opacity of it at all. No, it doesn't look like you can.
Okay, thank you.
But you're limited in that aspect.
Not quite the same as the Photoshop layer.
Right.
So the text looks like the only super positional stuff. So good question, Olaf. Good clarification question. Thank you. Anyone else have a question at this point? We're moving to 3:41 Eastern Time. Please don't hesitate to share your questions. For those of you who are have what you need from Julia, and by the way, Julia, you just rocked it here. You did a really, really good job. We'll stay around for a few minutes and answer continued questions, and we will, as a follow-up to this, Julia or I will send an email to you with a link to the YouTube video of this, and maybe going back to Luita's question, if we point you to some other resources for how to learn the product a little bit. So, but we'll stick around for a little bit with questions if you have them, okay? Anya, I'm going to turn your microphone on. You've got an idea?
Yeah, this is Anja Schmelter from St. Louis. In terms of the superimpose, you could probably create an image how you want it with the logo superimposed and then insert that image into one of these posts rather than trying to do it in the platform, in the Adobe platform.
Yeah. Yep. It would have to be pre-imposed.
Right.
Exactly.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Suggestions? We'll take them if you got them. You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. Those of you saying thank you. And Julia, I'm not sure if you can see the question panel, but that thank you belongs in your lap. So, if questions come up beyond this point, the Ace fighter pilot is there in Washington, D.C., and I'll put in the chat panel here. Everyone can see J.N. Dretta at jesuits.org. And she charges $85 an hour for a consultation fee. No.
You can tweet at Jesuit Schools, and that's free.
Okay. Okay, everybody. Thanks for taking some time out of your afternoon. We'll stay for a few more minutes quietly to answer any remaining questions. Otherwise, you'll hear from us. Have a good weekend, and thanks for being in touch with us, okay?
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.